got it.
Yeah. We are back in the house with a special guest with us this time. Go ahead and shout out to the people, Mike.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Spendley. I am the host of a podcast which is viewable on YouTube called From the Bench, a Knicks Podcast. I started the podcast in November. I'm an ex-New York Knicks ball boy. Sat on their bench in 1972. We went to the finals and lost the Lakers in 5. And in 1973, we turned it around. We lost game 1 and then won 4 straight and beat the Lakers in 1973. And ironically enough, that is the last time that the New York Knicks won the NBA championship. So little deja vu happening here in the old Big Apple area.
A lot of excitement throughout the city, yes. And we're excited as well, too, because this is our first time doing the podcast. And it seems like we're doing it amid this, impressive New York playoff run. We caught it kind of like during the All-Star break. This is kind of when the Knicks were kind of going through the motions a little bit, but they've certainly worked out the kinks and they are rolling.
It's amazing. As I followed them from the beginning of the year, I tried to point out similarities from my experiences, which are still very vivid. And as the year progressed during the regular season, it was a little tough to do that because they were experimenting. They were going with different rotations. They did a lot of different things that most times you don't do in the regular season. So it was hard for me to compare. They had a leader in Brunson. They had other pieces that hadn't meshed. But now that it's all come together, there's actually a lot of similarities in the two teams. Now, whether they carried on to be standing on that podium as the last team standing, we'll see. But it's an unbelievable progression in the last, obviously, 11 games. It's just been mind-blowing, really.
Now, where would you rank in terms of the turnaround from one season to the next? Because something me and Jay have been kind of trying to bat around is the impact that Mike Brown has had. And what, as someone who's been watching for such a long time, have you noticed a huge shift in the coaching? Is it mostly just a new voice, a fresh voice? Like, what would you say has been the biggest change in terms of coaching?
I think that's a great question. But I think it was subtle at first because, first of all, Mike Brown was brought in here, and I know everybody says, hey, he gets the big money, he comes to New York. But it was a huge gamble on his part, okay? He was basically told, listen, this is the team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals in 25. Your job, if you choose to accept it, okay, is to get them to the next level, which meant that if you didn't get to the finals, you're considered a failure. And then the owner backed that up about 2 months into the season and put his cards in the table as well. But here's what Mike Brown, I think, has done that's been so great. He's been unbelievably collaborative in his coaching style.
Yes.
He credits his assistants all the time. Brendan O'Connor, the defensive coach. Chris Gent, the offensive coach. Constantly talks about those guys. In fact, sometimes during the timeouts, especially on offense, Chris Gent actually runs the huddle during the timeout, okay? And early on in the season, they played Chicago. I think it was the 4th game of the year. And they lost big time, okay? And people were worried. They won a couple of games at home, and then they lost 3 in a row. And Brown came out in the press conference post-game and said, you know what? I experimented way too much tonight. I did too many things wrong. It's on me. Listen, in sports right now, it's pretty refreshing when you hear a coach come out and say stuff like that. You don't really hear it a lot in any sport, okay? So that was a good thing for Mike Brown to do early on in the season. And I just think, to answer your question, it's a much different style than Thibodeau. He's a much different offensive coach. And the defense took a lot of time. I don't think people really thought that Brown could get the defense to where Thibodeau had it, which I thought was a little better than mediocre last year. It wasn't as good as I thought everybody said it was. Mm-hmm. But then after they got past that stretch in January, they started closing people out in the threes, and now they're playing out of their mind defensively. So to answer your question, it was subtle at first, but it was a huge difference because, listen, his job was to get them further. He couldn't accept what was in the past. So he had to get crazy. And that's what most fans didn't understand. Everybody thought that Mike Brown was experimenting way too much. Well, he had to. And look at what that experimentation has brought to the table.
It definitely brought results. It definitely has changed the tide. Now the bigger question looming right now, since we're on this kind of a layover, if you will, waiting for who comes out of the West. What is the Knicks going to have to do if they face either the Spurs or OKC to kind of get to that next a win the finals?
Well, listen, it's pretty tough to feel that they're going to carry on exactly like they have. I mean, they've won 11 games in a row in the playoffs. It's pretty much unheard of. That's A. B, they've won those games by an average of 23.8. Okay? So they have to understand that the level of play might not match that in terms of numbers. But I really believe that the Knicks, they were rusty the first game against Cleveland after the big layoff after Philly, okay? But on the other end of the spectrum, Cleveland was, I thought, severely fatigued. Now, rust wears off. Fatigue doesn't. So I think what they have to do is just realize that, listen, they're going to have some time off. But, hey, if Oklahoma City wins tomorrow night, they'll have a good 5 to 6 days as well. And even if they play Saturday, they'll still have 3 or 4 days. I think the Knicks have to go about exactly what they've been doing and just realizing that, listen, you can scout both teams now and you can prepare for both teams. I think the Knicks have to do exactly what they've been doing and understanding, okay, that this is a different level of the 3 previous opponents. And they just have to bring it up another notch if they can. But I really believe the way they've bought into Mike Brown's concepts, okay, especially Karl Anthony Towns, okay? It took him a long time to get on board, and once he did, it's been amazing. So I think to answer your question, I think they have to do exactly what they've done, but they have to realize that they may have to manufacture some energy in the first half or maybe the whole first game. Because when you're off 9 days in the NBA and you're playing as great as they played for the second time rest, it takes a different type of mental approach. But I'm confident they'll do it because they have up to this point.
Right. The only thing that I'm also curious about that'll be different is this will be the first series where they're actually starting on the road. So if anything, do you think that will help? Do you think that'll maybe give them a little bit less almost pressure in a way that they have like a free shot because it's game 1 on the road?
I really believe that. It's a really good question. Listen, the Knicks record wasn't really indicative their road record wasn't indicative of how good of a road team they were. They started out the year poorly on the road, and they've turned it in. I think they've won 6 straight playoff games on the road. And for whatever reason, okay, that even though they were dominant at Madison Square Garden this year, I think there is pressure at home. I think New York City has been waiting so long for a championship. I think it's untalked about by the players, but I think there is. In my opinion, I kind of almost think it's a blessing to start out in Oklahoma City. Yep. It's the age-old 7-game series. Listen, we're going there. We want to get both, but we're going there to get a split and bring it back to Madison Square Garden. So I think, just my opinion, a tad less pressure opening up on the road for the first time in the playoffs this year. Yeah.
Now, do you think that there is a team that the Knicks have a more favorable chance against, or is there a team, do you think, I'd rather have this matchup than this matchup?
You know, it's funny because I was asked the same question before the Cleveland series, and I said, listen, I think that they have a better chance against Detroit, even though Detroit manhandled them, because I felt that the Knicks, especially at the center position, the way that Towns was playing, they would be better. And I thought that Cleveland's bigs would present more of a problem to the Knicks, but let's face it, they didn't. They had good first halves, but they seemed to disappear. And I think Cleveland's coach couldn't figure out if he wanted to continue to go down to those guys, Mobley and Allen, or they wanted to continue to see if Donovan Mitchell and James Harden could do it. So I think that Mike Brown really outcoached the Cleveland Cavaliers coach, Kenny Atkinson, big time. Okay?
Absolutely.
But back to your question. I've thought about that the last couple of days, and it's a tough pick. I would probably prefer to play San Antonio because the last time they played San Antonio, Wembanyama really complained about the physicality of the Knicks. And I think that's a planted seed in his head. I know he's gotten a little bit anti-tough and he's trying to act like he is, but I think the Knicks would bother him more physically, okay? But I got to tell you, some people are saying the Knicks haven't had a tough road to the finals. They've had easy teams. Well, you know how you cure that? You go and you beat the best team in basketball, the defending world champion. So I think the way the Knicks are playing now, it's kind of closer than you might think. Obviously, listen, athletically, both of those teams are really top. Those two guards and Dylan Harper off the bench for San Antonio, they are so good, okay? Oklahoma City plays such a big rotation, and now they have the other Jalen Williams out. McCain's been in, he had 20 last night. They're really good. So, you know what? I'm going to answer it this way, and it's really not an answer. Whoever they play, I'm happy to be there, but I really believe that we can do some things. You know, when they played Oklahoma City this year, they lost the second game by 11, but they controlled a good part of that game at MSG. Okay. So listen, Oklahoma City is not as devastatingly tough to beat as I thought at the beginning of the year. Okay. It's certainly the way the Knicks are playing. And you know what? Listen, it's 53 years, man. Destiny has to play a little part of this. And they're 12-2 in the playoffs. Okay. And the two games they lost by one each game and had the ball in the last possession to win. So they haven't done too much wrong. I think either one of those teams, though, will be favored. I don't think by a ton because of the way the Knicks have played. But I'm sure the question's going to be asked many times. I'm going to do a show next week and try to preview by player and matchups and this and that. And you know how that goes. I also thought that Detroit would end up coming back and winning that series too. So my predictions, I try to stay with analyzing and giving you my gut feeling, but my predictions haven't always been right on. It's tough to do.
So you're saying Knicks in 5 then, right? Is that what you're saying?
You know, listen, I really believe this, okay? And I'll tell you, I'm not even so sure this is scary. And I was saying this last night to a friend. It wasn't even a show. The way they've played, okay, they've gotten this without Deuce really hitting too many shots off the bench. Okay, McBride. Landry Shamit's been out of his mind. I think their bench is even better than what they've thought, and they're going to have to use their bench because Oklahoma City goes so deep. I'm not even sure if the Knicks have hit their peak.
Wow.
Okay, and if that's the case, I think it'll be a lot closer series. I think that the Knicks can win this series, and I think they can win it in 6 or 7 if they go against Oklahoma City. I really do. Now, a lot of people will laugh and say, what are you kidding? The defending champs. This is a much different team, the New York Knicks, than they were when they played Oklahoma City, even when they played San Antonio. Now, actually, they were 2-1 against San Antonio because they beat them in the NBA Cup final, but that didn't count on the actual one-loss record this year. Okay? So, yes, they had a little better luck, but you know what? San Antonio's a lot better than they were early, too.
Right.
Yeah, they're really
they've matured in the time that, you know, the 4 or 5 months that have passed. And speaking of reaching their peak and their potential, somebody that me and Jay have been trying to solve the mystery of, and I feel like he's finally coming through, is Mikal Bridges.
Yes.
What has been your analysis of him basically since that, you know, his low point in, I think, game 3 in Atlanta, where I think he had 0 points? Do you think it was just literally he just looked in the mirror and said, this isn't me, and he's just been a completely different player since then?
It's partially that, but I'll tell you what it really is. Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, his Villanova buddies, have always been in his ear, okay? And I think what happens with Mikal Bridges is not the most aggressive person / basketball player in the world. If you watch Mikal Bridges on a regular basis, he hardly ever goes to the foul line, okay? Right. He likes to hit that corner 3, but his best shot is the mid-range jumper across the middle about 10 to 12 feet out. But here's what happened. It's a good question. Mike Brown knew that. And Mike Brown said to him, listen, I can't cure you of your shooting slump. I want you to relax, okay? But what I can tell you to do is become more aggressive right from the start. Don't try to work yourself into the game. You don't have to defer to Jalen and Towns and Hart. You be more aggressive. And if you watch Mikal, since the fourth game against Atlanta when they were down 2-1, he's been unbelievably more aggressive. He's going to the basket. He's taking a few more foul shots than he did, and he's trying to hit those 10 to 12 footers instead of the stop and quick 3-pointers. I think that's been the world of difference. And because he's seen some success, his confidence is off the chart. And people didn't figure him into the equation. They figured we're going to have to deal with him. He'll probably sit out the fourth quarter. But when he's playing like he's playing, he's really the secret ingredient to beat this team, okay? And I'm saying Oklahoma City thinking being up 3-2, they're probably going to be the opponent. I realize that the series isn't over yet. But I think Mikal Bridges has played so well that teams weren't accounting for him. Listen, the other wing, OG, is playing out of his mind, okay? He made the All-NBA defensive second team. He should have been on the first team. He's hitting his three-pointer this year. He's got a tremendous touch. He's taking it to the basket and soaring for dunks, no layups. He's a leader on D. He's quiet. He just goes out and does the job. But those two wings, Bridges and OG, they are defensive dynamos, I'm telling you. And it's fun to watch them. And listen, for a Knicks fan that's been watching the team for 61 years and 53 years after the championship,
wow,
it's exciting to me because, listen, that's what Red Holzman was all about. He didn't care. You came to the team, and if you didn't play defense, you weren't going to play. Didn't matter who you were. Now, remember, the Knicks traded for Earl Monroe, and Earl was a star, Rookie of the Year star, more of an individual player with the old Baltimore Bullets. And when he came to the Knicks, Red said, listen, we're traded for you, and your points and your offense is tremendous skill that you have. But if you want to start here and you want to play here with Clyde Frazier on the other side, you better play defense. You know what? Earl became a darn good defensive player because he wanted to win, and he did it. So the Knicks defense right now is just absolutely stifling. But guess what? The number one defense in basketball is Oklahoma. So it should be so many great matchups coming down the road with this. I wish it wasn't next Wednesday. It's a week from today, and it's kind of a long time to wait for this.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Knicks are definitely rocking and rolling. They look excellent. They look supreme. But even still, though, with maybe throwing on that Jalen Brunson lens and thinking, what can the Knicks actually do to improve their play? What can they do to be a little bit better, a little more efficient or whatever? Even though they look like they're dynamic and they don't really have any flaws, what would you say is something that could even make them even more potent and better if you see anything that is a sign of weakness for them?
I think they have to continue to work on closeouts on the open man, on the three-point line, okay? Cleveland had some chances to get back in a couple of these ball games. Listen, game number one, Cleveland had a 22-point lead with 7:52 to go, okay? They hit a bunch of threes that night. So I think if the Knicks have any issue at all, and as I've said, they've defended the three way better than they did most of the year. They have a tendency every once in a while for their rotations, the second guy, on the closeout, not to get there in time. I think that, and I think they also have to watch how they use Mitchell Robinson. You know, teams are starting to use that hack attack on him where they foul him and they put him on the line. And, you know, he's gone recently 2 for 8, 2 for 10. So, but more importantly than anything, I think the Knicks offense is flowing tremendously now. Jalen Brunson is definitely the leader. They can run it up court. They can play quick pace, or they can play a half court pace. And he's really the leader, and they kind of follow his tempo on which way they go. On offense, I don't really see, as I said, maybe their bench a little more. Deuce McBride, who is a tremendous shooter, has to come off the bench with a little more aggressiveness, as I said about Bridges, okay? Landry Shamet's been great, but they're going to need more off the bench if they go up against Oklahoma City. So I think closing out the three, watching how they use Mitchell Robinson, okay, and getting a little more output from guys like Miles McBride, Deuce McBride, and Jordan Clarkson off the bench. I think they'll have to look at those three things. But really, with 11 wins in a row, it's awful hard to find any real negatives in there.
Yeah.
but no team is perfect, so it's a valid question. And I think if you look at those things, now, if they ever did everything that I just said and they ended up winning the series, it's one of the most amazing turnarounds. It's not like they were lousy this year, because they experimented with so many things. Hey, they had a 2-9 stretch in January, and they looked clearly like one of the worst teams in the league. New coach, experiment. He used the regular season much different than most of the other coaches did. Most of the other coaches wanted playoff seeding position, okay, which most times you play regular season for. But this year, he was like, I did an episode this year. I had a picture of Mike Brown in a scientist's outfit with in the crazy laboratory, okay, because that's what he was doing. And as it turned out, he found what works. They can play quick if they have to. They don't want to, but they can pick the pace up, or they can play half court. And I was more concerned on how they played defensively. And it's got to be a really big help to OG, because OG many times would be responsible for two guys and on occasion three. Right. So because they've upped their game defensively, OG's had a little bit easier time. And obviously he's concentrating on his offense, and he's been a big offensive weapon for the Knicks so far in the playoffs.
And what's interesting, too, jumping off of what you just said, something that me and Jay have kind of harped on all season is that the Knicks seem to carry themselves like the 2001 Lakers, where they just feel like they can flip the switch. And for weeks and weeks, I was kind of banging my head, because it's like, you guys haven't won a title yet. You have to kind of earn that. But they've kind of shut me up. I mean, they carry themselves in this way like they always knew this was there, and now they're just sort of, finally reaching that potential. Is that something that you think is actually a possibility, that this team, not that they were holding back, but to your point that they were experimenting so much in the season, they kind of knew that, once we kind of lock into the actual way we want to play, we're going to be the kind of a juggernaut?
I do. And I actually think that Mike Brown, the coach, held back on some things too. And I'll give you an example. Jalen Brunson, in a post-game interview one night, said that he didn't feel they were holding back, but he felt that they could do so many different things and they were becoming more versatile, and they couldn't do them all at once. So they would say, okay, we're going to concentrate on this because of this matchup we have tonight. And what happened with Mike Brown was, Karl Anthony Towns is the one guy on this team that had a hard time buying in. It might have been ego. It might have been some things at the beginning of the year, but he had a really hard time accepting the type of sacrifices that he had to make. And guys like Josh Hart, who was a total team guy, and Brunson would get in his ear and say, we're not really concerned whether you get 25 and 10. It's great if you double-double, but we want to win. Right. And at the end of the year, what they started to do to give Brunson more rest and make him more dangerous offensively off the ball, because he's such a terrific shooter, okay, is run the offense through Karl Anthony Towns. And it's funny, because Karl Anthony Towns is a terrific passer of the basketball. Yeah. And that got him involved. They brought him higher on the post. And he's got the long reach. He's 7 foot, so he can see everybody. Nobody's going to block his vision. So they went through a stretch where they ran, and against Atlanta, especially in game 4, 5, and 6, and then Philly, they used Karl Anthony Towns as like a point center, almost like what Pippen was to the Bulls, but as a center because of his passing ability. And Mike Brown, many people thought he held that back for use in the playoffs, which guess what? He did. Some of the Knicks beat writers had seen that in practice and seen them working on it and questioned Mike Brown. He said, we knew we could do it. We were just looking for the right matchup. So, yes, I do think they held some stuff back, but I also think that Brunson totally believed in the team and totally believed in Mike Brown's concepts. And I think starting around February, March, Brunson would say things that I didn't understand. Brunson would say, no, I know we can do this. And I would say, well, they better show me, because they're not showing me right now.
Right. That's kind of what I mean, where it's like they just feel like they can just turn the switch.
Yeah, and I thought the same things, and I said, well, I sure hope so. Because I had criticized Thibodeau the last couple of years, and I was a Thibodeau guy, but I thought they would turn it on defensively 2 out of 3 games, and they wouldn't in one of the games. And that used to bother me, because that was something that, and again, the game is completely different Okay. Centers ruled the game in those days. The Willis Reeds, the Will Chamberlains, the Bob Laniers. So the game was different. There was no 3-point play. Okay. But the Knicks have really, they don't do the 2 out of 3 defensive games now. They try to bring it every night. Okay. And the games that they haven't, it looks like just they weren't able to because it was physical and not mental. I can tell. I really can. I've watched thousands of NBA games, both in person and on television. I haven't missed many Knicks games in 53 years, to be honest with you. Okay. I can tell a team that isn't playing well mentally just as easy on the television, sometimes even more so, than you can when you're at the arena. Okay. And I think the Knicks are giving it 100%. So even if they're not successful in the finals, it won't be any other reason because the other team physically was gifted and possibly maybe made some better decisions. But that's why I'm so curious for it to start. And that's why a week away, it stinks, man. I want it to go now. I want to get this curse over as quick as we can, if we can,
Sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Just the waiting part of it is a little bit of agony, but I guess we get a chance to see how the West Coast, the West Conference is shaping up. The question I had to you, Mike, is now I noticed when they won the Eastern Conference Finals, the celebration that was taking place, and it seemed like to me anyway. Karl Anthony Towns, he seemed a little too giddy, almost the same way he looked like when he won the Emirates Cup. And I'm just wondering, do you think that could psychologically affect his play? Because maybe he's already arrived again like he did when they won the cup. I worry a little bit about him. I don't worry about Brunson because obviously Brunson, doesn't matter what happens with him, he just remains monotone and very even keel. But to me, Cat seemed a little too excited, and I just get nervous about that sometimes. I don't know if that's part of it, but
I understand that. I think you have to also get Karl Anthony Towns is a different, and I don't mean this a play on words. He's a different cat. Okay, he really is, man. Okay. Yeah, he was excited after the NBA Cup, and that whole NBA Cup thing scared me anyway. They played okay a little while after, but they went into the tailspin after. I don't think it had anything directly to it, but I understand your question. Here's why I don't think that's going to happen. If he hadn't completely bought into the system, and what I mean by that is if he has to play as point center and run the offense and facilitate the offense through him, he does it willingly. If he has to get offensive and post up low, he does it willingly now. If he has to come out to the high post to set a pick for Brunson, he does it willingly, okay? And you touched upon the guy that I don't think will allow him to. And it's not even Mike Brown. It's Jalen Brunson, okay? They become extremely close, and it's really good because I think Jalen Brunson, okay, is like a big brother if a 6-foot guard can be a big brother to a 7-foot guy. So I don't think Jalen's going to allow that. And I think Towns was so happy because middle of the season, he was afraid he'd be traded. The Giannis rumors were all over, okay? He finally came in. He was a little stubborn. He bought in. Now he's ecstatic. And his personality is more like that. So I don't think there's going to be a letdown with him at all. What Karl Anthony Towns, but I understand you asking the question, okay? I really do. Your questions have been fantastic and spot on. What he really has to do, okay, is just stop committing what I call the dumb fouls. In other words, if he's guarding the guy down low and he goes up for a shot and you contest the shot and you foul him, okay. But if you're 15 to 20 feet away from the basket and you put that slap foul in where you're not going to stop him there, why go for the slap foul? Those are the fouls he's going to have to stay away from. And even more so if they get in a matchup with San Antonio because of Wembanyama. Okay. Isaiah Hartenstein on the other end will be a tough matchup for him, but they don't play Hartenstein as many minutes, Oklahoma City, and then they move the other guy, Holmgren, in too. But again, overall, he's got to watch the stupid fouls because they're magnified in these bigger games. Okay. And for whatever reason, Mitchell Robinson isn't playing the minutes I thought he would play. They've kept him on the bench. They did the injury management where they wouldn't play him 2 games in a row. He's only averaging about 14 minutes a game, and he averaged 19 in the regular season. His fouls. But I think Mitchell's got some stuff going on mentally and having some issues outside the game that maybe is affecting them. I shouldn't even mention it, but they broadcast it on the games themselves. So I think that's even a little more pressure on Towns to just because Karl-Anthony Towns can beat you in so many ways, but if he's in foul trouble, they have to go against what they need to do against certainly both teams, Oklahoma City or San Antonio.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Mike, I thank you so much for being a special guest with us today on this podcast. Where can folks find you and digest more of your in-depth coverage of the Knicks and other sports things?
The podcast is called From the Bench, a Knicks podcast. It's on YouTube. I usually upload most of my episodes on Saturday, but now that the playoffs are going, I may throw an extra episode in. I'm going to be doing podcasts throughout the entire summer. I'll cover the summer league. I'll cover trades, everything, and then start afresh. This was my first year doing it. My wife talked me into doing it. Said that you've always brought the Knicks good luck. So I start the podcast in November, and here we are in the NBA Finals. So my name is Mike Spendley, Spendley. My podcast is on YouTube, and it's From the Bench, a Knicks podcast, and I really, really enjoy doing it. I try not to blow people away with too much history or old Knicks stuff, but I do refer to it every once in a while. But the coverage is basically our New York Knicks now as they are presently constituted as a team.
All right. Well, I appreciate you rocking with us. Thank you for being a part of the Bounce Report. That's it for us. Be sure to check out the Bounce Report on TikTok at Bounce Report. Check us out on Instagram at NY Bounce Report, and check us out on YouTube at The Bounce Report. I appreciate you, Mike. And if you want to say anything else, Devin, we got less than a minute.
Oh, no, thank you so much. Thank you for the knowledge, and you're clearly the good luck charm. So keep the podcast going.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, guys. I really thank you for having me on, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'd love to talk to you down the road again.
Oh, absolutely. We'll circle back once the series is in progress.
Sounds fantastic, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Take it easy, Mike.
Take care, guys.